Hey guys, so today I'm going to show you the meal prep that I did a week ago. This was my last week's meal prep, and we're going to go through 4 different recipes. So I did a breakfast recipe, which is this baked blueberry oatmeal that you're seeing right now. All the ingredients and the instructions are on the screen for you guys, so you can just listen to me and then write the recipes down if you would like to make these at home. But I just want to tell you a little bit about what I did and why I did it this way. So at the beginning of every week, usually on Sundays, sometimes on Saturdays, sometimes on Mondays, just depending on what my schedule is like, I meal prep all of my food, and normally I'm making enough for Tim and I, so I'm meal prepping for 2 people. If you're meal prepping for 4 people or 6 people or whatnot, you can always add the servings or double the recipe or something like that. But I like to make things super easy. I really desperately hate spending hours and hours and hours in the kitchen. I run a business, I run a YouTube channel. There's so much going on in my life that I just don't have time to spend my whole day in the kitchen. So this is basically a full week of meal prep in 2 hours, and I was doing things kind of back to back. The peach cobbler that we're going to make later in this video is in the Crockpot right now, if you can see it behind the oatmeal. I had already made that, and that was setting, and it was so easy. So when I'm thinking about meal prep and when I'm looking for recipes, I'm looking for things that are versatile, that are super easy to re-warm and heat up, or that are cold, and that can make a lot of portions, right? That you can make a lot at one time. So this blueberry baked oatmeal is one of my favorites. I also absolutely love doing this with peaches. I did it with blueberries because Tim really doesn't like peaches, and I was making peach cobbler. But I just thought I could always add in some fresh peaches if I want to at the end. But it is my favorite way to do it with peaches. But we're doing peach cobbler and whatnot, I did it with blueberries, and then I did add raspberries on top, and I'm just pushing those into the baked oatmeal so that they're a little bit more into the oatmeal and like baking actually into the oatmeal and just sitting on top. You could also top these afterwards. You don't necessarily have to bake the raspberries. I'm not sure if I liked them baked. They were kind of a little more tart, I feel like, than they were before. And what I do is I cut these into squares and then I store them, and I keep one at home for me and I send one to work with Tim so that he can take them with him, and they are just little bars, and I put it in a bowl and I heat it up for 30 seconds or a minute or so. And then I usually top it with a little bit of sugar-free hazelnut coffee creamer, which makes it a little bit sweet. Or you could use milk or something like that just to, because the oats dry out a little bit in the oven, so it just moistens it a little bit, which I really like. You guys know I love turkey tacos, but I make those all the time. So what I decided to do with this was make it a little bit different and do a turkey meat sauce. You can use like half ground turkey, half ground chicken. You could use half ground beef. Beef's going to be a little bit higher in fat content. I get the 93% lean ground turkey, so I don't get the Jenny-O extra lean, because that is like chewing on cardboard, you guys. It is so stinking chewy, the extra lean. I would never recommend getting it. I always get just the normal lean Jenny-O ground turkey, or just normal lean ground turkey. And you're just going to saute this. You can add an onion or garlic in this if you want. I didn't, honestly, because I didn't think about it. I had an onion that I meant to use for it, and I just completely forgot. So I just did this with the ground turkey, and I'm just browning it and making sure I'm like breaking it up with the spatula, and I'm just making sure that there's no pink in this ground turkey so that it cooks all the way through. And then once it's all browned, you're going to drain it, and you don't have to drain it all the way, but I like to drain a little bit off of it. There's not much fat that's in this ground turkey because it is so lean, so it's not like ground beef where you're draining off a lot of the fat, so I'm not super concerned about that, but I do like to drain it just a little bit, which is what I'm doing here, and I'm really going for it with just tipping the pan instead of putting something over it. And then this is my favorite sauce. It's a tomato basil, but you could use like a garlic sauce. You could use something more herby. You could use like light Alfredo sauce and a red sauce combined and make like a blush sauce. I don't know if that's exactly what it's called, but you could do something like that and it would be totally okay. And then I'm using Italian seasoning. This has like oregano, parsley, basil in it, and then I'm using garlic powder. You can use any spices that you like. Adding red pepper flakes if you like a little spicy would be a really good option too. So whatever you prefer with your meat sauce, this tastes exactly like ground beef, you guys. I promise. I know that you're looking at it and if you're used to meat sauce like sausage and beef kind of sauce, then you're probably thinking, oh my gosh, this sauce is going to taste really healthy and disgusting. I promise you, it tastes the exact same. In fact, I think the first time I ever made this for Tim, he was like, no, I don't want to use ground turkey or something like that. And so I made it with I made it with turkey instead of beef, and he had no idea. And I just didn't tell him that it was ground turkey. So it works every time. And so if your husband is like a beef fan or or like sausage in his sauce or something like that, use ground turkey and just see if he even notices. And then we're just going to make the pasta. I love using like veggie pasta or whole wheat pasta. Tim bought this rotini and it's what we had in the house, so that is what I made. And you want to salt your pasta water because before you put your pasta in when it's boiling, salting it is the only chance that you have to season your pasta before. And then I actually got this tip from Rachel Ray, but I put a little bit of olive oil on the top of my pasta water because it keeps the pasta from sticking together when you drain it. So you can see it like moves around a little bit better. And then I am just straining it, and then I'm going to just go add it to a Tupperware. Now I stored these separately just because I think it's easier in terms of portions. I did put a little bit of extra light tasting olive oil on it and mix it around just so the pasta doesn't stick too badly, and it worked really well throughout the week last week. So the third recipe that we're making is a chicken sausage and potato roast. Now, my teammate Renee, when my team was here and we were making lots of different recipes and doing our team week here in Minnesota, our conference, we were testing out lots of different recipes, and this is one of her favorites that she recommended, and I love chicken apple sausage. Like, I make chicken apple sausage so much, and Tim loves potatoes. He's like meat and potatoes guy from Minnesota. You know how that goes, and we both like onions, and so I thought this would be a really good thing to do and have throughout the week, and it actually held up super well in the refrigerator. So I just used 8 like small yellow potatoes, and I cut them into quarters. You just want to make sure that when you cut them, they're fairly uniform so that they all cook at the same rate. And I believe I was supposed to bake these for about 30 to 40 minutes until the potatoes were tender, but I ended up leaving them in for about 50 minutes. They just weren't quite tender enough. My oven just maybe didn't preheat hot enough when it was working on it, but I just put them in there for about 50 minutes. So I just fork tender test them. So like when they're in the oven, I just pull them out and stab them with a fork. And if the fork goes in and out pretty easily, then they're tender and good to go. And then I added a white onion to this. So if I'm chopping it for sauces, I chop it like I dice it. But I wanted to slice this into like bigger, thicker pieces, and I actually would recommend slicing them a little bit thicker than I did. They kind of melted into the roasting pan, and they didn't hold up in their size that much, but it was still really delicious. I just would probably slice them in thicker chunks so they hold their texture and their size a little bit better. And then I'm just breaking the onion up and putting it with the potatoes in a bowl, and then I'm chopping up the sausage. So I said I love chicken apple sausage. Tim likes spicy chicken sausage, so he likes chicken apple too, but I got 2 kinds, and I thought that because that one, the spicy one, is the one I'm cutting now into thirds on the bias. If you don't know how to do it, it's totally fine, but you really just angle your knife, and it's pretty easy. I thought I'd be able to tell the difference when they were roasted because it's so much darker than the chicken apple sausage, but when they came out, they all looked the exact same, and so I never knew if I was getting a chicken apple sausage or a spicy sausage, and so I would recommend doing one type of sausage or 2 different types of spicy or 2 different types of regular so that you're not like, I literally was like holding my breath, like, am I going to get a spicy sausage? Because I really didn't want it. I really wanted the chicken apple and Tim to have the spicier kind. So next time, I would definitely do it with probably just one kind of sausage, but either way it works. I just put a little bit of olive oil on the potatoes and all the onions, and then toss it around, and then spread it on a baking sheet with salt and pepper, and then I just placed the sausage like around so that it would all cook evenly, and it's set to 400, and again, I did it for about 50 minutes, but you just want to keep an eye on them. I'd probably start checking them at 30 minutes, and then kind of checking them every 5 to 8 minutes after that, because they don't take a super long time, and you just want to make sure that they're tender and the potatoes are tender. And once they are, then you're all done, and it was so delicious. And I was really impressed with how this had held up over the weekend. It was really easy and really, really good. So totally recommend it. And I usually separate everything out into 2 containers, so one for Tim to take to work and then one for home. The last thing that I made was the peach cobbler, and I don't have a after video for what it looks like, but it was so good, you guys. So I'm using a Crockpot. I'm a huge fan of Crockpot recipes. Everything's going to go in there. Healthy tip when you're baking or when you're cooking with sugar, I like to use Truvia sugar or Truvia brown sugar. I use both of those. Like the brown sugar was in the oatmeal, and then the white sugar is going in this recipe. And it's literally peaches, sugar, Bisquick, milk, and I don't even know if there's an egg in here. I don't think there is. You can go back to the ingredient list. And a little bit more sugar, Truvia sugar, but again, Truvia is a natural sweetener, a 0-calorie sweetener, and you just literally mix it all up and put it in the crock pot, and turn it on low for 3 hours, and it's amazing. It sets up, I didn't believe it was going to do it because especially with this Bisquick, the mixture was so thin that I wasn't quite sure it was going to work out, but it did super well, and I would really recommend this. I'm a big fan of peach cobbler. So that's it. If you guys like these 1 week of meal prep videos in 2 hours, or like in breakfast, lunch, and dinner and dessert recipe, give this video a thumbs up so I can tell if you want me to film my meal prep more often. I want to make sure that you guys like it before I film a bunch for you. But yeah, thanks so much for watching this. I really, really appreciate it. If you make any of these recipes, tag us on Instagram at 3S Fitness or Twitter at 3S Fitness with pictures and let us know. And have an amazing day and week, you guys, and I will see you all in the next video. Bye, everybody.